All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, February 23rd. I'm Donna Will, Professional Development Coordinator for the Developmental Disabilities Administration. We welcome you to the Maryland Community of Practice for Supporting Families webinar series. The title of our webinar today is Celebrating Families and Partnerships. The session is being facilitated by Kane-Breschi, Parent and Director of Family Supports for DDA. Her special guests include Bernie Simons, Deputy Secretary, DDA, along with the directors of DDA's regional offices, which include Bianca Renwick, acting in Central, Kimberly Gscheidle on the Eastern Shore, Onesta Duke in Southern, and Cathy Marshall in Western. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a few things about the webinar. All participants are in listen-only mode. There are two options for listening to the webinar, by computer and phone. And if you have trouble hearing, you can try switching by clicking on the appropriate button on the webinar panel. We have one handout for this webinar, and you can find it in the handout section in the panel to the right of your screen. It can also be emailed if you are listening by phone. We will be recording the webinar today. And also, we'd like to hear from you and get feedback on today's presentation and any suggestions you have for future topics. Please use the question or chat box to the right of the webinar panel to provide it. And if you have questions related to your family members' services, please contact your local regional office. There's one last thing before we move on, and we're going to ask you to participate in two polls. And the first one is, where do you live? So I'm just going to launch that. It'll come up on your screen, and you just pick out your region, Central, Eastern, Southern, Western. And we're just going to take a few seconds for that, and then we'll close the poll, then we'll share the results. About 60% has voted. Okay, almost 75%. Yeah, all right, we're going to close the poll now. Oh wait, people are still responding. I can't shut that. Okay. 80%. All right, here we go. We're closing it. All right. It looks like 33% live in Central, 19% in Eastern, 42% in Southern, and 6% in Western. All right, we're going to do one more for now. Okay, what is your relationship to disability? So we have Coordinator of Community Services, we call them CCSs, DDA provider, if you're with a provider agency, family member, self, other. All right, we're going to take a few more seconds. Okay, we're going to close the poll. All right, looks like 11% are CCS, 33% are providers, 36% are family members. We don't have anybody saying self, and 19% said other. So I'm going to hide that. And now I'm going to introduce Kane-Breschi.
Thank you, Donna. On behalf of the Maryland Community of Practice for Supporting Families, welcome to our webinar on celebrating families and partnerships. The purpose of this webinar series is to bring individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, families, and others together to connect and share information and even ideas in an effort to support one another as we move through this pandemic and beyond. During the series, we have and we will continue to discuss and address a variety of topics and concerns individuals and families face related to COVID-19 in everyday life. And we do this with invited guests and subject matter experts, and always through the lens of charting the life course. As many of you know, charting the life course is a set of universal principles and tools. Its fundamental principle states that all people have the right to live, love, learn, work, and play, and pursue their aspirations in the community. Charting Life Course was developed out of the University of Missouri's Kansas City's Institute for Human Development Family to Family program. Say that 3 times. And it was developed to help people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and families create a vision for their good life. Also to think about what they're going to need to know and do, how to navigate and or develop supports and resources, and finally discover what it's going to take to live lives of their choosing and do it. At its core, Charting a Life Course views the person within the context of family, however family is defined, and community. It recognizes the critical role families play in the lives of their family members, and that the needs of both the family and the family member will change throughout their lives. Therefore, it's critical that our policies, regulations, programs, and practices be flexible, person and family centered to meet the needs of the individuals we serve and the families that support them. These principles inform the work of the Maryland Community of Practice for Supporting Families, as well as that of DDA. We come here today to celebrate the vital role families play. We want to spotlight the critical partnership between DDA and families and to share information about DDA's plans for supporting families in 2022. And to help us do that, we have 5 esteemed guests. As Donna mentioned a moment ago, we have Deputy Secretary Bernie Simons, Acting Director Bianca Renwick. If you want to, wave your hand, Bianca, with the Central Maryland Regional Office, Kimberly Gscheidle, Eastern Shore, Onesta Duke, Southern Region, and Cathy Marshall with the Western Region. Just welcome to all five of you. It's not often that we get you together, and here we have you today. So with that, I'd like to ask Bernie to join us and get us started.
Let me make sure. Am I unmuted? Can you hear me all right?
Yes, you are. Yep, you're good.
Okay, so, I want to thank everybody who's on this webinar today. I think it's really great that everybody's here. And Mary Ann, thank you for hosting all of these for so long. And, I know it's into the 2nd month of the year, but Happy New Year to everybody. It's been a long time since we've seen anybody in person. Difficult road that we've all had with the pandemic going on 2 years and in about another 3 or 4 weeks. And so, again, thank you for all that you do and everything that we've done. You know that GDA has 6 focus areas that's, on our website, housing, self-determination, self-advocacy, and today we are focusing on celebrating families. Next slide, please. So, as I said, we've been through a lot together, and this is the last wave of the COVID, and while it wasn't the first, it was still difficult. A lot of people have been getting ill, and particularly family members concerned about their relatives, sons, daughters, brothers, sisters who are either with a provider or living at home, and concerned about, not necessarily wanting people, because you don't know if they're vaccinated or not, of the people who are getting providing services, so either in home or whatever. So once again, we know that family members were restricted from spending time. People were isolated, disconnected. In some cases, families brought people home, and as I said, but didn't want anybody to come into the home. Totally understandable. And so other family members and individuals that we provide supports to juggle their work schedules to care both for well and ill family members who are living at home, people who are no longer attending day programs physically, but were possibly able to participate in some type of activities remotely. And so we know that families found themselves creating daily schedules to replace those that didn't exist you know, pre-pandemic. We know that there was a lot of assisting with technology that, you know, a lot of people don't understand, including myself, because, and I'll apologize if I, at some point in time, disconnect myself here. And so, anyway, as we go forward, you know, we had the opportunity through the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services to have something called Appendix K, which gave us a lot of flexibilities throughout the pandemic to find creative solutions for the well-being of individuals, their families. And so we started looking at all of that stuff. We got a lot of information from individuals and families about what they were looking for. And in some instances, families were hired by providers directly to work as staff. Families could increase their hours for staff who were self-directing. Training requirements were relaxed. We know that we've seen that because obviously during the pandemic, people were not going to go out and expose themselves to any training. So we had to relax those. And that was afforded through two things. Number one, Appendix K, and number two, through the state emergency that Governor Hogan declared during early on in the pandemic. So, you know, again, as we move forward, we learned a lot. You've informed us of, you know, what works, what doesn't work, and what you think we should do going forward, especially around technology. You know, we've heard stories from family members who basically said, you know, I wasn't sure my son or daughter could do X. And they just amazed me during the pandemic that, you know, all of these wonderful things were happening. And boy, you know, my son or my daughter is much more independent than I ever thought. You know, so, you know, again, I think that there's been some good learning experiences for all. And for all of this and for all you do as family members and everything that you do, I'm very grateful. And I want to thank you before, you know, anything happens. I also want to extend my sympathy to those who lost family members during the time of this pandemic. You know, our hearts and prayers are with you. Next slide, please. So our goal, obviously, for DDA and is to support families. Really important to us, extremely important to us. We want to partner with families and individuals that we provide supports to with IDD. We want to create policies, programs, practices that promote and maximize the capacity, strengths, and the unique abilities of families to support their family members across the lifespan. I mean, that's what this is all about. It's across the little pictures that you see on this, and starting with this visual with showing from an infant growing all the way across the whole lifespan. So, you know, obviously we want to continue to do this. We want to, through the partnership with the community of practice, increase access and resources for families, have families be able to connect family to family to support and learn from one another as we build go to that next unit.
Bernie, I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
Please. Next slide.
We're at the next slide.
Can you hear me now?
That's okay, no problem. Yeah, you're good now. Thank you. I can't hear you now if you're talking.
Okay. Hear me all right?
Okay, try. I can hear you now.
I'm having a problem with my connection, it said. I just got a notice. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, as I said, technology a few slides ago, I could be the one having problems.
No
And
worries.
so in 2022, we're going to increase our efforts to better support families. And I've been meeting with Mary Ann and having discussion about how we should do that. And we are going to hire 4 regional coordinators for family supports and to have them trained in charting the LifeCourse as ambassadors. And, you know, to bring the charting LifeCourse to families and individuals in the regions at a local level. I think it's extremely important that we put the resources there. Again, it's one, to coordinate within the region rather than what we had before as a part-time staff that did something else in doing this. So this is extremely important, and we need to work alongside the regional teams to create a flexible, person-centered family system that can better support families across the whole lifespan at a local and regional level. So again, you know, to have opportunities to hear from families that will be hosting, you know, and facilitating to get this information and feedback as we continue to move forward and figure out, so what are the experiences and what are we hearing from families and what's going on with DDA and regional policies to assist families to navigate, specifically around, you know, transitions and stuff. I mean, it's not easy when you look at a transition. You know, many of you have gone with your son or daughter from, you know, early intervention to school, from school to high school, from high school to the world of DDA, and each time it can be really trying and difficult to understand how to navigate the system. So, you know, hopefully with all of this, and we can assist families and provide ongoing support, you know, through either information sessions, webinars, communications that we will be sending out. And again, I think this is all about building relationships and collaborating with people and families and other developmental disabilities and non-developmental disability community partners. I mean, we're all in this together, and we need to do that.
Great, we lost you there, but I think we're no problem. Bernie.
Again, you know, what we're doing with the life. So we've got the focus areas. I think am I breaking up again?
Yeah, you are. Sorry.
Is a delay.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Well, I just finished my last slide. So
yes, you all right. Thank you, Bernie. Thank you so much. I've been so excited about this webinar. It's not often that we have Deputy Simons along with our 4 regional directors in one setting. Deputy Simons, you shared some challenges families have faced and how they've overcome them through partnerships. You've also highlighted their strengths and willingness to do whatever it takes to support their family member. And you also shared some plans for 2022 to support families. Now I'd like to invite each of our regional directors to share a poignant story, event, or lesson learned over the last year, and maybe a couple of things they hope to do in 2022 to support families in the region. So we're going to begin first with Bianca. Welcome, Bianca.
Hi, Marion, you did not tell me I was first.
Oh, well, alphabetically, come on. Welcome, no worries.
Thank you for having me here today. So you want me to start with the story?
Yeah, and you have about 5 minutes.
Okay.
So,
so I think one of the stories that has sat with me in this region, in this role, is we have this one mom with 3 little ones. They're all school-aged boys who receive services through self-direction. And just the conversations with her as to how she's seen her boys thrive because of the support that they've gotten, the one-on-one attention they've been able to have with their staff that has allowed for them to be such better students. And especially with during COVID, when they were at home and homeschooling, we were able to source with some computers because the ones, they're boys, they were kind of hard on the school issued equipment. But just really a partnership in knowing that she could call the regional office to discuss what the needs were for the boys, and we worked together to help her utilize the waiver services to allow for her to support her young ones, and including recently her contracting COVID and needing staff to remain with the boys while she was able to isolate. And when I first got in touch with her, she was a little stressed because she was having a hard time finding staffing and just trying to again coordinate services for these three very energetic young guy she has. But over the last year, I have seen her build a really supportive team in really trying situations where now all boys are thriving, and mom is certainly a lot happier for it and a lot better able to focus on assisting, giving each of the boys their time individually, right? Instead of just her dealing with all three boys all at once. So and there's so many more stories like that we've just heard across the region of families through providers and through self-direction services, just building really, really strong teams where they do not feel alone and they do not feel isolated, and they're able to build that support system to help them navigate the wonderful world of adult services.
That's a fantastic story. Thank you, Bianca. How about what are you looking to do in the central region? Just one or two things this coming year.
A couple of things. Continue on our positive trajectory of ensuring that we address any concerns in a timely manner. We've worked very diligently on building positive capital with our families and our providers in the region, and we hope that continues very well. One thing that I'm getting more of as due to the staffing issues of COVID and as family members are no longer able to manage to navigate the system, how do we work with families to plan succession? What happens when that point person on your team is no longer available to work with the team to coordinate and manage services? So we've been getting a couple of those questions recently. And so definitely something to think about for our families and our teams to plan. It's not a comfortable conversation to have, but a needed conversation. And how do we navigate the process after that family member who is, that champion for that person for their entire life is no longer able to perform in that role? And how do we maintain a good quality of life and a good quality of service moving forward?
Well, yeah, that's such a difficult one. It's as a parent, it's our worst fear and something we don't want to think about, but we really need to think about and to plan early. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Bianca. All righty. Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so let's move on to the Eastern Shore. And I welcome Kim Gscheidle.
Good afternoon.
Go ahead. I was going to say, share your story. Share your story, please.
I will do it. Okay. Well, good afternoon. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to join you today. This is really sort of the heart and soul of what I think DDA is about, is partnering with families. So, we were looking at the trends that we're seeing in our region, and I think this is consistent with our colleagues in the other regions as well. And we are seeing really a large increase in individuals and their families who are choosing self-directed services or transitioning from traditional services to self-directed services. And so there are a couple of reasons for that. One is that folks really want to have the flexibility to create how and where their services are being provided, and especially now. Having more of a comfort level with being able to have some of their family members as staff. And finally, being able to have the say in who comes into their home as staff. And some of this is obviously related to COVID, but we were hearing this even beforehand, and much of it is related to that for many folks, traditional services are not particular to meet their needs. And I think that's part of the dialogue we want to have with families. And I'll get to that. But a perfect example of this, and this is my story, is a young woman, and she is known as the Cupcake Queen. So she is 28 years old, and she decided that self-directed services were the right path for her.
Kim, you're breaking up.
And she wanted to choose who provides her support. So this allowed her to, among others, to choose her mom to be her staff. So choosing self-directed service.
Kim, you're breaking up. We lost you there. I'm so sorry, everyone. Kim.
Allowed her to dream big. She loves to build.
Kim, you're breaking up. I'm so sorry, everyone.
Let's see if we can get her to call in. Do we want to go to another person, Marianne, and then maybe
Sure.
she can call in?
Thank you so much, Patricia. Let's do that. All righty. With that, let's move to Southern Maryland, where we find Onesta. Welcome, Onesta.
Thank you, Marianne, and good afternoon, everybody. So as far as my story,
she is.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, Onesta.
Okay. So towards the end of last year, I received several calls from families that were hired by traditional providers to provide personal support services to their loved ones during the height of the pandemic. So families reached out and they were expressing their desire.
She conducts her.
They were,
Onesta, please, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, they were expressing their desire to continue to provide supports beyond the termination of the Appendix K application. So in one particular conversation that I had, a concerned parent did express that she would like to continue as her daughter's support staff for a number of reasons, which included staffing constraints at the agency, virtual supports not necessarily working for her daughter. And there were also concerns pertaining to the rise of the Omicron virus, because that's the rise was happening right around that time. And she also mentioned that there were some concerns around her daughter adjusting to changes. So during that conversation, after listening to her concerns, I was able to provide some clarifying information pertaining to the extension of the Appendix K application. And as you guys already know, some flexibilities that were supposed to terminate in December, they were all extended to March 31st of this year. And then I was also able to let her know that the waiver amendment number 3 also have accommodations for family members continuing.
I am so sorry. My apologies.
Kim, can you hold on just one moment? I'm going to let Onesta finish.
Absolutely.
And then we'll come back
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay, no problem. Go ahead, Onesta.
Okay, so
I'm
that
sorry.
there are accommodations under waiver amendment number 3 for family members to continue supporting their loved ones in personal supports. So I think from communicating with those families and sharing information, it was gratifying because they felt more informed. It was an opportunity to connect with the families, share valuable information, clarify discrepancies or misinformation. So it ended up being turning out pretty good. It was a good conversation and the family was very appreciative. So So in reference to what SMRO is planning to do in FY22, I think we want to definitely continue to communicate, be responsive to families and all of their needs and concerns, continue to provide clarifying information, and just being able to just listen to their concerns and provide viable solutions, right? That works for the person, work for their person-centered planning team. And we're also looking at continuing to address any person-specific health and safety concerns as we typically do, especially if it's around the person-centered plans, continuing to expedite plans as needed, share resources and information, and just listen to what their concerns are and just see what we can put in place to make everything a little better and easier for them.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Onesta. And I'm so sorry for all the technical difficulties we've had.
That's okay.
You're a trooper. So with that, I'm going to, thank you so much. I'm going to go back and let's revisit with Kim.
Well, my apologies. I have not had this happen before, so I'm not sure how far I got in my story about our cupcake queen.
Go, just pick up with the story. Just begin.
Well, she actually continues to grow her recipes. She does her research. Her mom assists her with that. She does the preparations. They do sales on Facebook, etc. But she also, and I don't know if you all heard this part, she has many other interests as well that she's very committed to. She's an actor. She is involved with the Shore Shakespeare group. She is a volunteer at her library. She also is a volunteer in her church, and she does monthly readings with her church. And really looking for many additional ways. And I was reading her annual plan, and she's got big dreams, big ideas. So it's really, I think the thing, and this sort of to your next question, what do we want to look to continue to support, is really hearing new ways of supporting folks. I think that I've been in this field for a very long time. How we used to assume services would go forward is very different than what they are now. And we want a really healthy, good dialogue with folks who are looking for their own services and with their families, so that we don't make missteps, that we help folks really move forward so they don't spend a lot of time in services where they feel like they're spinning their wheels. So we really want that dialogue. We want to, as both Bianca and Onesta said, we want to be as responsive and quick to be able to get services and supports, but we want to spend a fair amount of time listening and learning what folks can tell us, and to encourage individuals and their families to strategize together, to really dream together, and really bring us along with that, so that we can be part of their personal trajectories and transformations. So
Kim,
we are so looking forward to this.
Well, that's fantastic. And what all of us know is that I think the more we partner, not only does the individual live their best life, and do we support the family better in whatever capacity that, or whatever form that takes, but ultimately too, I think the regional office and it makes it easier for you as well. And it's just, we're more effective, we're more efficient, and I can't wait to see what 2022 brings for the Eastern Shore. So with that, thank you. I know. So last but not least, our mighty, although Onesta's mighty too, Cathy Marshall out in the Western region. Cathy, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. The story I would like to share is one that I've heard from a couple of people. Day programs closed, people couldn't go out to the Y, they weren't doing as much activity through personal supports. So my young lady was very concerned about her weight. She struggled with her weight before she couldn't go, when she was at the Y and moving around a lot. So she and her parents and her personal support staff got together, and they decided that their goal during COVID was going to learn better eating habits, better living habits, and how do you exercise when you can't get to the gym? Well, she is quite a success story. Not only did she lose weight, but she has learned to prepare her very favorite meal, spaghetti, in a much healthier way. While she is excited because now she can get back to the Y, she's going to go back to her day services. She doesn't want to lose all those healthy things she learned. You know, when you're working with a lot of other people, somebody always brings in the cupcakes or the cookies or whatever. So she's now going to take that focus and work on keeping that weight off, getting back to the Y, and maybe sharing her recipes with some other people. But that was a huge, huge team effort, and her parents have even picked up some new skills. So that was quite a good story.
Yeah, absolutely.
What Western wants to do is, I am hearing, and we all are hearing from many families and many individuals, their fear of going back out into the public, the fear of getting the COVID virus and taking it home and giving it to someone, the fear of when I get back to Meaningful Day, are my favorite staff going to be there? Is my best friend who sat next to me going to be there? When I go out in the community in my small group, or my two buddies going to be with me? There's a lot of unknowns. And the other fear is, as Deputy Secretary Simon said, some people have really blossomed and learned some new skills. I even had a family tell me there had to be a rule at the dining room table: no iPads during the meal. You know, it was like when we first started having phones, and now, you know, you got to put the phone away. We're going to communicate at mealtime. Or they're helping their parents on their iPads. And they don't want to lose that ability to be independent with that remote service. For others, they've had new social groups and new relationships that they've set up on the internet. Or they have now learned some independence and want to make sure they take that independence with them.
Yeah.
Some people are just having panic attacks about the whole thing.
Yeah.
So let's take a deep breath. Let's step back and let's take this one step at a time. Nobody says you can't continue to wear your mask if that's what makes you comfortable. We all need to wash our hands and not lose that habit. You can continue to social distance. And nobody says this has to be one thing one day and one thing the next day. Let's take some little steps. Let's look at some things that aren't so threatening.
Yeah.
And let's connect with people and make some new memories or some new routines. And don't forget, you always ask for help. So let's talk about some of those small steps. Some of those small steps might be, let's just walk to the corner and come back and see how we feel. Or maybe we meet one friend or one family member today for an hour. Or maybe we go pick up a coffee and sit down in the coffee shop. And then let's talk about how we feel when we come back. What went well? What didn't go well? What can we change? And if all went well, plan your next outing or your next visit or your next Meaningful Day activity. And you might start out with one person in your group, and maybe your goal is to have 3 or 4 people in your group. But again, nobody says on Friday you're at home and on Monday you start 5 days a week of 6 hours of some activity. We all need to take tiny steps as we move forward. And we did learn some other things during the pandemic we don't want to lose. You got to stay connected with your family and friends. That's who your supports are. Talk about your feelings. If you don't talk about your feelings, you got to have help to sort through those. You got to get your sleep. You have to eat well. And that dreaded exercise needs to come in there too. And stay away from those negative newscasts or negative stories people tell you. we just want to help people to connect with people again. Let's create some new memories and routines. Let's talk about your feelings. And if you need help, please reach out to us. And we'll work along with families and individuals and providers and everybody to get you where you want to be.
Thank you, Cathy. Such sage advice for all of us, right? Thank you so much. So with that, I'd like to, this was probably more for me. I just created this word cloud, and it captures some thoughts and ideas about DDA's vision and our regional office's vision for supporting families. And that's there for you to look at if you'd like. Then I'd like to, before we get into the questions, so we're going to take questions, we're going to have you participate in 2 polls. So with that, Donna, would you mind bringing up the 3rd poll, please? And if you wouldn't mind participating, that would be great.
Yeah, so are you or the person you support receiving services through DDA? So it's either yes, no, or you're not sure. And we got half of the people who have voted, and I'm going to leave it open for a few more seconds, and then we're going to close the poll. And okay, I'm going to close it now. And so it looks like 66% had said yes, 29% no, and 5% aren't sure. We'll hide the poll.
Thank you for participating.
Did you want the satisfaction poll?
Yes, let's do that so we don't have it at the very end.
Okay.
That'd be great. Thank you. We have one more at the end.
So, were you satisfied with this webinar? Okay, we got a few more seconds, and then we'll close. All right, we're going to close it. Okay, so 43% said yes, greatly satisfied, 47% satisfied, and 10% said not satisfied. We're going to hide that poll. And, all right, one more.
Oh, no, we're going to hold the one that last one.
We're going to hold it. Okay. All right.
Yep. Okay. With that, thank you, Donna. We'll take some questions. Patricia Sestoki, Director of Programs, has been monitoring the questions for us. And do we have any, Patricia?
We do. We actually have one for Bernie. And Bernie, I think it's because when you were speaking, people couldn't hear, it was muddled. So the question is, can you clarify what did you say about the regional coordinators of family supports and what's happening in the regions? Can you say that again?
Yeah, I was concerned. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So I met with Mary Ann and we had discussion, and many of you know, if you look at our website, we have focus areas like employment and self-advocacy, self-direction, housing, supporting families. Now we've added technology. And so with supporting families, I and Mary Ann had a long conversation about, do we have the appropriate resources to take our focus area and to move forward to assist families? And obviously we always had staff in the regional offices, but you know, they get multiple jobs. It might be supporting families and working with case management and working with providers, et cetera. So I thought we wanted more of a focus, since this is one of our 6 areas now. So we developed a state personnel job description and moved forward with that. So we will be hiring one person whose sole responsibility in each regional office will be for supporting families and working for Mary Ann.
And this one is for Mary Ann. Will the ambassador training program be available for others to participate in? Who and how should they go about expressing an interest?
Great question. Initially, so the goal here is okay. There are many parts of this question, but many parts of the answer. But first and foremost, our goal here is for our ambassadors for our coordinators to become Charting the LifeCourse ambassadors, and that they would bring Charting the LifeCourse to the local regions and the community. And in doing that, they would be offering training and partnering with whether it's providers or other community stakeholders, and then through partnership, making even some more opportunities available for folks to be trained in Charting the LifeCourse. But short answer, our coordinators will be introducing Charting the LifeCourse to families and individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in the community through a variety of ways, and so much more to come. And as we roll this out, we'll be clearer as to what that's going to look like and opportunities for that. Patricia and Bernie, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that or not.
No, I think you did good. All right. The next question is Onesta. My child just turned 18. How do I get him to enroll with DDA? I remember putting in an application for him, but I didn't get any response. You're on mute. You're talking.
Yeah.
So sorry. So my recommendation is to reach out directly to the regional office. If it's my region, you can contact me and I will verify if the person is known to us. And if they're not, you do have I'll be able to share information where you can go to the DDA website in order to access the eligibility application and direct you on where to send it, and we'll go from there. Typically, the eligibility process takes up to 60 days. I know right now, it's specifically in our region, we're touching those applications within a week or two, and we should be able, if there's an urgent situation that's going on, we should be able to expedite the processing of the application. But it's a multi-layered process that entails a comprehensive assessment with the CCS and so on and so forth. So I definitely encourage you to just reach out and I will be able to share any information that you need. And my email is onesta.duke@maryland.gov.
Thank you, Onesta. This one is for Cathy. So Cathy, can you address the problems of clients who've lost their jobs, not being able to return to work? I've been told the primary issue is finding capable job coaches.
And we have heard that from many of the providers. With the ARPA funding, many of our providers are going to use those funds to help recruit staff and increase wages for staff. I did recently hear from a provider who actually had 20 people for day services in their orientation group last week, and they have 15 for this week. So with the ability for the American Rescue Act and the monies that are there, many of the providers are going to use that for exactly what you're talking about, staffing and hiring qualified individuals to work with people in our services.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Cathy. And the next one is for this one. Either anybody can answer this. I know I'm going to pick on Onesta because this was asked of us when we were in Southern region, but who or what agencies monitor CCS organizations, and where can you voice your dissatisfaction of how the program is being managed for your loved ones? So I'll start, and I'm going to turn it over to the regional directors. We work closely with the CCS entities, and we encourage that if you as a family member or a person in services have difficulties with your CCSs, to go directly to that CCS agency and share your concerns. And if they're not addressed at that level, then we would like you to bring it to the regional office. So I don't know if any of the regional directors would like to answer. I'll start with Onesta.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Patricia. So if anyone is experiencing any challenges with a specific coordination agency and you've already attempted to communicate with a CCS supervisor and you're not satisfied with the response, definitely reach out to the regional office. Each regional office has a CCS lead. For the Southern region, it is Carol Bowman. If you're unable to reach her, definitely feel free to reach out to me, and we can try to work with her to resolve that issue. And there's a number of options that are available to families that are not necessarily satisfied with a specific CCS agency that we can present to you, and then you'll be able to make an informed decision regarding whether or not you are ready to move on to a different agency or a different CCS, or just present those choices to you so you can decide what would work best for you and your loved ones.
Thank you. And there's some other questions about, so they want Onesta's information, Bianca's information, and Marianne, don't you have those on the slides?
Yes, everyone's contact information is included in this PowerPoint, of which it was loaded into this, and you have access to it through the webinar.
Thank you. There's one here, and I'm going to ask Bernie to comment on. I recently had the opportunity to learn about the Maryland Self-Direction Act of 2022. It includes a number of proposals that will greatly benefit those participating in self-direction. Is DDA supporting this bill? And
That's a
how
good question. We are actually reviewing the elements of the bill to see what requirements there are. We know that there was, I think on a monthly basis, one of the delegates had a work group throughout part of the summer or the fall, and I think it ended in December was the last meeting. I had the opportunity to participate in some of those meetings along with staff from who direct the Medicaid program. And so we are actually looking at that and evaluating it, seeing what areas that would touch DDA. We know that some of them were one of the recommendations, and I can tell you that it's already happened, is to have multiple fiscal management services rather than just the selection of one or two or whatever. So we will have multiple for an opportunity for people. So, you know, again, we're working our way through this bill.
Thank you, Bernie. This other one is a question. It says, can we work on implementing permanent funding for PPE for self-direction services? So I think we can take that into consideration. It says, can we work on implementing permanent funding for PPE for self-directed services?
Well, I mean, we can evaluate it. Sooner or later, PPE hopefully is not needed, you know, with the virus. You know, I think the figures, we keep going down. You see what the governor announces usually at least weekly, if not more frequently. I think we're below 3%. I think it's the last that I read, and the number of hospitalizations down, et cetera. So if there's a need, we'll assist. But I'm not just going to make a blanket statement and say, oh yeah, we'll fund PPE forever. I mean, there may not be a need. So I think we need to evaluate it as we see what's going on with the public health emergency. We know that when the pandemic started, we did have the opportunity to get a lot of PPE through the regional offices out to individuals self-directing, as well as the provider agencies, et cetera. So.
Okay. This one is also for you, Bertie, directly. It says, for Bertie, I've been hearing that DDA is considering adding an additional budget line item for administrative service providers. Essentially, this providers will provide services to participants for budget management and other essential paperwork with the FMS group. Is this true?
Well, it's news to me what you just asked. So obviously, I'm not aware of it, but I would consider, since we have it as a question, to evaluate it.
Thank you, Bernie. So this one, Bianca, do you want to take this one? It has, my son is in a residential school and will be transitioning into DDA residential and meaningful day services. Could we consider self-directed services?
Absolutely. Self-directed services are available to anyone who is interested and who qualifies for the waiver. So work with your coordinator of community services to present a plan and budget to the regional office for consideration based on your son's needs, and we can certainly process that for approval.
All right, thank you. And I don't see any other questions on the chat box. So
Okay,
I'm
well,
going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Patricia. So with that, we have one final poll that we ask that you take, if you wouldn't mind. Donna, can you bring it up, please?
Yes. Okay, depending on the topic, will you attend future webinars? Maybe, yes, no. We got half have voted so far. Take a few more seconds. Okay, we're going to close the poll and share the results. Most of you said yes, and 6% said maybe, and no one said no. So that's great.
Great. Well, with
Hey,
that, thank you, Donna.
Marianne,
Yes.
can I make an amendment to my response?
Oh, sure.
Right. I just recognized they said day and residential. Right now, residential is not a component of SDS services. So day, yes, but residential is not a component of SDS. So they would have to evaluate which direction they want to go, because residential is only available with traditional providers.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Bianca. And I now would just like to thank Bernie, Cathy, Onesta, Bianca, and Kim, and Patricia for being here today. Personally and professionally, so much of what you've shared resonates with me, and I'm certain with so many others. Thank you for taking the time to be with us, sharing your thoughts and the plans moving forward. And for all of you out there, please stay tuned for information regarding our next webinar. And with that, here's my contact information if I can help you in any way. And have a wonderful day, and thanks for being with us. Take care. Bye, everybody.